probably think of silence as an empty pause, just a void waiting to be filled. But what if I told you that your silence is actually a powerful unspoken language that's shaping every single one of your relationships? What if those quiet moments you're always rushing to fill are secretly the most important parts of any conversation? In the next few minutes, you'll discover why your silence can be a source of deep connection or a trigger for major anxiety, and how mastering it can fundamentally change the way people hear you. We're going to explore the difference between a silence that builds trust and one that breaks it, how to use pauses to command respect, and why embracing quiet might just be the most powerful move you can make for your own personal growth. Stay with me, because you're about to learn that what you don't say is often more powerful than what you do. Think about the last time a conversation went quiet. Did you feel that little jolt of awkwardness? That frantic urge to say anything just to fill the space? Most of us do. We've been taught to see silence as a failure, a sign that we're boring, or that the other person is upset. But that's not the whole story. Silence isn't an absence of communication. It's one of its most powerful forms. While the old 93% of communication is nonverbal, statistic is a famous oversimplification, the core idea holds true. A huge part of our meaning comes from tone, body language, and yes, the strategic use of silence, especially when feelings and attitudes are involved. This isn't just about being quiet. It's about learning to speak a language that works without words. It's the language of confidence, respect, and deep understanding. Not all silence is created equal. There's a world of difference between the comfortable, easy silence you share with a close friend and the cold, weaponized silence used to punish someone. Getting this distinction is the first step to mastering its power. First, let's talk about the silence that destroys relationships. Psychologists call it stonewalling, and it's recognized by researchers at the Gottman Institute as one of the most damaging behaviors in a partnership, one of the so-called 4 horsemen of the apocalypse for a relationship. This isn't a healthy timeout. It's a deliberate withdrawal used to show anger, assert power, or just avoid a tough conversation. It's a conscious choice to shut someone out, leaving them feeling rejected, anxious, and totally alone. Why is it so destructive? Because studies have shown that being ignored or excluded can activate the same parts of our brain that register physical pain. When one person uses silence as a weapon, it demolishes trust and intimacy, creating an atmosphere of constant tension. The person on the receiving end is left guessing what they did wrong, which can spiral into self-doubt, low self-esteem, and even depression. It's a sneaky form of control, often worse than a loud argument because it leaves the other person hanging in a state of unease. But then, there's the other kind of silence, the silence that builds worlds. This is the comfortable, shared silence that signals deep trust and connection. Think about just sitting with someone you love, no words needed. Those moments aren't empty. They're full of mutual understanding and a feeling of safety. In healthy relationships, silence creates a space of psychological security. It's a nonverbal way of saying, "I'm here with you, and that's enough." This kind of silence actually heightens our emotional awareness. Without the need to talk, we pick up on everything else. Body language, breathing, a subtle smile. It's in these quiet moments that real empathy happens. Sometimes, when a friend comes to you with a problem, they don't want advice. They just want to be heard. Your silent, attentive presence can be more comforting than any words you could offer, making them feel truly seen. This is the positive silence that builds intimacy and lets a relationship breathe. Have you ever noticed how the most charismatic speakers use pauses? They don't rush. They don't fill every second with sound. They use silence like a tool to give their words weight and gravity. This is the power pause, and it's a technique you can use to instantly boost your own perceived confidence and authority. When you rush your words or pepper your sentences with ums and ahs, you're subconsciously telling people you're not entirely sure of yourself. You seem uncomfortable with the quiet and therefore uncertain about what you're saying. In contrast, pausing for a moment before you speak shows you're calm, collected, and in control. It tells others you're taking them seriously and putting together a thoughtful response, not just spitting out the first thing that comes to mind. This works because it creates anticipation. When you pause, you draw people in. They lean forward, waiting for what you'll say next. That brief silence makes your words more impactful and memorable. It gives the listener's brain a moment to process what you've just said, which leads to deeper understanding. In a negotiation, or a tough conversation, silence is your secret weapon. When someone hits you with a difficult question, your gut instinct might be to fire back immediately. Instead, try this. Say nothing. Take a breath. This gives you a critical moment to manage your emotions and plan a productive response instead of a knee-jerk reaction. This quiet moment can also make the other person a little uneasy. They might rush to fill the silence and end up revealing more than they planned, giving you valuable insight. The best leaders often listen more than they speak. They use silence to create a space where others feel safe enough to share their own ideas. Choosing not to fill every gap doesn't mean you have nothing to add. It means you're confident enough to let the conversation breathe. Try it in your next meeting. After someone makes a point, instead of jumping in, consciously wait for 3 seconds. The effect might just surprise you. If this is clicking for you, do me a favor and hit that like button. It lets us know you want more deep dives into the psychology of communication, and make sure you subscribe, because next, we're going to uncover how you can use silence to conquer anxiety and unlock some serious personal growth. For a lot of people, silence isn't golden. It's terrifying. It kicks off a flood of anxious thoughts. Are they mad at me? Did I say something stupid? This is so awkward. This feeling usually comes from an anxiety-fueled assumption that silence means disapproval or disconnection. But what if the secret to feeling less anxious wasn't filling the silence, but learning to embrace it? The constant noise of our modern world, notifications, social media, the endless to-do list in our heads, puts our brains on overdrive and keeps our nervous systems on high alert. This noise, both internal and external, is a huge contributor to stress and anxiety. Silence is the direct antidote. Research suggests that just a few minutes of silence can be more relaxing than listening to so-called relaxing music, because it helps activate our parasympathetic nervous system, the body's rest and digest mode, which can slow the heart rate and lower stress hormones like cortisol. So, why do we get so anxious in a quiet moment? Often, it's because we're finally forced to listen to our own inner chatter. Without outside noise, we're left alone with our thoughts and feelings, and some of those are things we've been trying to avoid. But this is exactly where the opportunity for growth is. By learning to sit with that discomfort, you start to build a tolerance for it. You learn to observe your anxious thoughts without having to immediately react. Making time for intentional silence can be a powerful way to manage anxiety. It gives you space to recover when you're feeling overwhelmed. The next time you feel your stress levels rising, instead of grabbing your phone, just try sitting quietly for a couple of minutes and focusing on your breath. This simple act can help reset your emotional state. You can also start reframing how you see silence in conversations. Instead of thinking of a lull as a failure, see it as a chance for both of you to reflect. Tell yourself, this pause is productive, and you can actually retrain your brain to be comfortable with the quiet. Turning silence from a source of fear into a sanctuary for peace doesn't just reduce social anxiety, it makes you more present and mindful in every part of your life. Beyond just communication, silence is one of the most fertile grounds for personal growth. In the quiet, away from everyone else's opinions, we can finally hear our own inner voice. This is why so many spiritual traditions emphasize silent practices, not for emptiness, but to create the space to connect with your most authentic self. When we're constantly talking and consuming information, our minds get cluttered. Silence is like a mental decluttering tool. It allows our brain to switch into its default mode network, a state linked to creativity, self-reflection, and big-picture problem-solving. This is why your best ideas often pop into your head in the shower or on a quiet walk. Fascinatingly, silence seems to have tangible benefits for the brain. A 2013 study on mice found that 2 hours of silence appeared to promote the development of new cells in the hippocampus, a brain region tied to learning, memory, and emotion. While this was an animal study, it points to the incredible idea that silence isn't passive. It might be a state that actively helps our brain grow. Embracing silence helps you build profound self-awareness. When you sit in stillness, you give yourself room to process your emotions, reflect on what you truly value, and spot the patterns in your life that aren't serving you. This clarity helps you align your actions with your true intentions, leading to better decisions and a stronger sense of purpose. This practice also builds patience and self-control. In a world that screams for instant gratification, learning to wait and reflect before acting is a superpower. It teaches you to be guided by wisdom instead of impulse. As the Native American physician Charles Eastman Ohieser wrote, "Silence is the cornerstone of character. This discipline builds mental and emotional stability, helping you navigate life with more grace and resilience. You don't have to go on a week-long silent retreat to start. Begin small. Schedule just 10 minutes of quiet time into your day. Drive without the radio. Take a walk without your phone. The goal isn't to have a totally empty mind, but just to be present. In those moments, you give yourself the greatest gift of all, the space to finally meet yourself. As we've seen, silence is anything but empty. It's a dynamic force that shapes our inner and outer worlds. It can be a weapon that creates distance or a bridge that forges deep, unspoken bonds. It can be a sign of confidence that commands respect, or a sanctuary that calms an anxious mind. How we use and interpret silence really defines the quality of our relationships, the clarity of our thoughts, and the path of our personal growth. The real challenge, in our endlessly noisy world, is to start using it with intention, to choose a power pause over a nervous filler word, to offer a listening silence instead of jumping in with advice, to embrace the quiet discomfort until it finally transforms into inner peace. So the next time a conversation falls silent, fight that urge to immediately fill it. Take a breath. Notice what's happening in that space. Is it a moment for reflection, a signal of trust, an invitation to listen more deeply? By learning to work with silence, you're not just becoming a better communicator. You're accessing a more authentic, centered, and powerful version of yourself. You are learning that sometimes the most profound thing you can say is nothing at all. What's your relationship with silence? Do you find it comfortable or cringeworthy? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and for more deep dives into the psychology of a better life, make sure you've subscribed. Thanks for watching.